Hello, hello, welcome or welcome back. Let's sit back, relax, have a snack, and enjoy. Sit at My Grave, Season 4, Sanity or Salvation, Chapter 3. Cries of creatures in the night seem to echo and fade. Those sounds tangled with whistlings of bitter wind. The harsh air fought through the warmth of his coat, but did nothing to move his body. Nothing seemed real. Had to be experiencing a nightmare of some kind. Though, there was a time he believed he couldn't have dreamt of a scene so cruel. The chaos, the screaming, tangling of limbs, desperate for an upper hand, the pounding within his skull, burning agony in his chest, demanding voices gnawing into his psyche, the silence that hung in the air after it all. It rang in his ears, burned his lungs. It was also suffocating. He'd been so hopeless, panicked, so scared, terrified of never seeing his brother again, and stayed with knowing it was all his fault. Everything had seemed to happen so quickly. Now all he had were the memories of it all playing back in his head, methodically slow. He was hardly able to hear his own thoughts at the time, overwhelmed with his emotions, and hearing all those voices beckoning him forward. It all felt like too much, but there was this nagging acknowledgement that pulled in the mist, feeling as if he could have fought harder against everything propelling him in that direction. His mind was so mixed up. This was the right thing to do. He was restoring balance and gaining his brother back, but he felt so guilty, so disgusted afterwards. Arden hadn't stayed in that forest long. As soon as he could, once again, only hear his own thoughts within his brain, it clicked into place what he'd done. Despite what it was for or what it felt like, he'd stabbed someone. Those thoughts alone kicked his flight into gear, and he ran, heart pounding in his ears with every fearful step he took. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He raised his weapon and pierced into another human skin with such force their flesh was torn into, spilling their blood. The same blood running through their family members, who would inevitably hear about this and be destroyed. Regardless of how well anyone could heal, no family ever truly got over losing someone. Arden knew that firsthand, and the thought of knowing, regardless of his own circumstances, he was putting another family through that. Sickening. He'd been too weak to even give a proper look at all the damage he caused. The scene must have been gruesome. The smell seemed heightened in those moments. The scent of fresh blood made him ill. A nauseating quiver rippled through his entire body. With trembling hands, he managed to get away from the other, leaving him lying on the cold, unforgiving forest floor, disregarded like nothing. He should have checked to see if he was alive still, or if there was a chance to take it back, bring him for medical attention, do something. But he ran, too much of a coward to face what he'd done to him in reality, seeing his lifeless body, too stuck in his own ambitions to see him clinging on to life. A dangerous enigma he was stuck in. His clothes had been changed in the woods, a shaky flurry of movements and nervous choices. Everything had been radio silent now. No cheering him on, no temptation, nothing telling him if he used the knife correctly or not. He was left alone with his own thoughts to clean up. It was for Reed. I'm just trying to fix things. Garrett was meant to be dead, just he had told me himself. Rambling thoughts as he tried to convince himself his actions were correct, with nothing to fall back on and no one to speak to. His mind couldn't stop racing with only his thoughts. Even if he could have seen his own reflection in that moment, how could he even recognize himself? Despite feeling as though he knew the truth, his core hurt with what he'd done. His body trembled as he slowly gazed down at his hands, dirt still clinging deep under his nails, scratches and scrapes littering his palms. Every word he spoke into his mind, trying to convince himself to stop feeling the paralyzing shame. He could only counter himself each time, convinced he looked like some type of psychotic maniac, struggling to make himself feel more human, even after taking the life of one. He had to try hard not to drift off and feel that he imagined those voices the whole time, telling him to do it. The weight of the blame was heavy, lying thickly on his shoulders. guilt twisting his heart. As much as he didn't deserve it, he needed someone, something to bring him back down to earth. He had waited for the words from Josiah to kick back up, something to substantiate what he'd done. But left alone, he didn't feel the satisfaction he thought he would, only the cold pit within him, accompanied with heavy limbs. The adrenaline dump hit him hard, and now he was left with lingering hurt and confusion. But what else could he have done? What else could any of that meant if what he did wasn't what he should have? Arden sat on the side of a road, his breath shaky and hollow. The garments wrapping his body were fresh out of his luggage, hiding the blood-stained ones deep inside his bags. His hair was disheveled and dirty. Darkness found its way under his eyes. His expression was blank as he watched that side of town slowly come to life. He had fought his way through the forest to a different side of town, trying to get far away from where he left Yara, and where he couldn't get rediscovered by the Neelys. Arden hadn't bothered to check to see what time it was. He was meant to be getting to the airport, he was sure, but he couldn't make himself move anymore. The situation's severity was clawing away at him. The need to cry was there, but he couldn't make himself at the moment. There was no relief. He felt swollen with emotion, constantly battling with his own thoughts, inner turmoil, stuck in a state of silence by the mouth. Was this really the way his trip was meant to go? Ringing caught his attention, but he still couldn't make himself move, planted to the spot. He heard his phone click over to voicemail, but he stayed quiet. He had no idea who could be calling him, and even though he craved a connection after what he'd done, he was stuck there. Who could he talk to that would even matter right now? How could he have a normal conversation after doing something like this?